Welcome to Concrete Block, your premier destination for in-depth news analysis and thought-provoking discussions. I'm your host, Walter, and we're glad you're joining us today. As we dive into the world of current events, our attention turns to Bolivia, where a pivotal presidential runoff election is underway. This election marks a significant shift in the country's political landscape, with both candidates, Rodrigo Paz and Jorge Tuto Quiroga, pledging to strengthen diplomatic ties with the United States and seek financial support to stabilize Bolivia's fragile economy. This pro-market shift signals an end to 2 decades of dominance by the leftist Movement to Socialism Party, founded by Evo Morales. The outcome of this election will likely have far-reaching implications for Bolivia's foreign policy, economic development, and social programs. According to recent opinion polls, Quiroga is leading with 47% support, followed closely by Paz at 39%. However, it's essential to note that Paz outperformed expectations in the first round, making this a closely contested election. As voters head to the polls, they're driven by a desire for economic change. Bolivia has been grappling with soaring inflation, fuel shortages, and a struggling economy. The winner of this election will face significant challenges in addressing these issues and restoring stability to the country. It's worth noting that both candidates have expressed their intention to enforce an arrest warrant against former President Evo Morales if elected. This development has sparked concerns among Morales' supporters, who have reinforced their vigil. As we continue to monitor the situation in Bolivia, it's crucial to consider the potential implications of this election on the country's relationships with other nations, particularly the United States. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has expressed enthusiasm for the prospect of stronger ties between the two countries, stating that both candidates want stronger, better relations with the United States. We'll be keeping a close eye on the developments in Bolivia and exploring the broader implications of this election in the days to come. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're glad you're still with us as we dive into the world of finance and technology. Today, we've been exploring some fascinating stories from around the globe, and our middle segment is no exception. We've got a couple of interesting tales to share with you, starting with some news from China. It appears that tech giants such as Alibaba-backed Ant Group and e-commerce group JD.com have put their plans to issue stablecoins in Hong Kong on hold. This comes after the Chinese government raised concerns about private sector-controlled currencies. According to reports, regulators from the People's Bank of China and Cyberspace Administration of China have advised these companies not to move forward with their stablecoin ambitions. Now, this development is significant because it highlights the complex relationship between governments and private companies in the world of finance and technology. On one hand, governments want to encourage innovation and growth, but on the other hand, they also need to ensure that these new technologies don't pose a risk to financial stability or national security. In a related story, we also came across an interesting article about a new facility in Hong Kong that allows companies to borrow yuan directly from banks in the city. This could potentially make it easier for businesses to operate in China and take advantage of the country's growing economy. However, it's also important to consider the potential implications of this development on the global financial landscape. Moving on to something a bit more lighthearted, we also stumbled upon a fascinating story about a unique landmark in Hong Kong called Checkerboard Hill. This hill features a large red and white checkerboard pattern that was once used as a visual guide for pilots landing at the old Kai Tak Airport. The airport was notorious for its challenging approach, with planes having to make a sharp right-hand turn to avoid surrounding buildings. The checkerboard has since been restored and is now a popular spot for hikers and aviation enthusiasts. It's a great example of how a piece of history can be preserved and repurposed for the benefit of the community. And that's all for our middle segment. We hope you found these stories informative and engaging. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. I'm your host, Walter. As we close out today's show, we're taking a look at some of the major stories making headlines around the world. From Mexico to Bolivia and across the United States, there are significant developments that warrant our attention. Firstly, in Mexico City, the 17th edition of the AIDailyPress Parade took place, showcasing vibrant folk costumes, fantastical creatures, and a rich cultural heritage. This event marks the beginning of El Día de los Muertos season, a time for Mexicans to honor their ancestors and celebrate life. It's a testament to the country's diverse and thriving cultural landscape. Meanwhile, in the United States, protests have been sweeping across all 50 states under the banner of No Kings rallies. These demonstrations are a response to concerns over authoritarian tendencies and corruption within the current administration. Thousands of Americans from all walks of life have taken to the streets to express their discontent and demand change. As we report on these events, it's essential to acknowledge the diverse perspectives and opinions that exist within the American public. In Bolivia, voters headed to the polls for a presidential runoff, choosing between two conservative candidates. This election marks a significant shift in the country's political landscape after 2 decades of rule by the movement toward Socialism Party. The outcome will undoubtedly have implications for Bolivia's economic and social policies, and we'll be keeping a close eye on developments as they unfold. As we strive to provide balanced and unbiased reporting, it's crucial to recognize that each of these stories has its own complexities and nuances. At Concrete Block, we're committed to giving you the facts without taking a side or promoting a particular agenda. Our goal is to inform, educate, and inspire meaningful conversations about the issues that shape our world. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, stay informed.